So I'm back from vacation and I wanted to make a quick video for you all today. It's going to be sort of a mixture of different things. While we were on vacation, we went to a little fish store, local fish store in Sarasota, Florida that I'm going to show you. We went on a little boat tour, played with the drone. I'm going to show you a little bit of that. And I've also got some more stuff to tell you about the flex and breaking down aquariums, moving fish around and all that good stuff. That's all coming up right after this. Hey YouTube, this is Pecktec. I'm sorry I missed you guys last week. I did intend on making a video or maybe live streaming a video or something like that, but I don't know. I got really tired. I got really tired. In fact, it took a lot of motivation to even get up and just start filming again. And it's not because I don't want to or anything like that. I just like you get in this mode of like not working. And then you've got to get back in the mode. You got to get back in sync. Unfortunately, I also hadn't been paying very close attention to my hard drive space, and I am just about out of space. So this beginning and the ending is probably all you'll see of me, and unfortunately, I'm probably going to have to narrate through a lot of this because I can't throw too much more footage in, or I'll completely run out of space. I do have another hard drive on order, but it's coming Monday, and I wanted to make my video this Sunday, especially since I didn't make it last Sunday. So here's a little breakdown of what I'm going to show you today, and you can feel free to skip around. Like if you don't care about my drone footage, yeah, if you don't want to see the fish story, you just want to find out what's going on with this thing or the other stuff that I'm talking about, just take a look right here. We had a great time as always on vacation, and one of my viewers was like, "Hey, you should check out this fish store." And actually, we've been there before, and I decided to go back. Let's take a look. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago we were in Sarasota, Florida, and we decided to go to the Seascape Aquarium and Pet Center. It's in a little shopping mall. Not much to look at from the outside. It's not bad, but it's pretty neat. Inside, I found that they had a really wide variety of fish. Of course, they had some really big specimens. This guy is obviously a mascot for them and looks to be many years old. It's a really big eel. It's one of the bigger ones I've ever seen in an aquarium. They were set up the way a lot of pet stores are set up. Even here, with you got your saltwater side and a freshwater side, and down the middle they had some corals and things. Now, I'm not an expert on saltwater fish, but they really seem to have a good variety of different things. I compare everything to my local store, it's a kind of an outstanding local store, so it's kind of hard. It's a hard comparison, but they seem to have like a pretty good variety of fish, and as far as I can tell anyway, they all seemed really healthy. They seem to be in good shape. Some of these tanks seemed a little tight, even for retail. They're stocked to the gills, but I know that's how it goes with a lot of these retail stores. More than likely, these fish will not be in these containers very long. So there's that. So all along the middle, they had frags and different things like that. I didn't spend a lot of time looking at that because I don't know what I'm looking at. The freshwater side, it seemed really good. They had a lot of neat fish. They had a bunch of the stuff you always see at all these stores, but they had a few things that were a little different, a little unique, like some of the stuff that I don't see very often in Knoxville, like the little gobies and stuff like that. Overall, it looked like it would be a great store if you lived there and needed to go buy a fish. I definitely would be in this place probably every other weekend or so, looking to see what's new. One interesting thing I saw is this. This is an African clawed frog. I don't know if many of you have ever seen them as an adult or wondered what the difference between them and maybe the little dwarf frogs. These are really big animals. Really neat. They had lots of planted tanks and plants and stuff that you could get also. Looked like some baby monster fish too, if you're into that sort of thing. We had a really good time kind of looking around and enjoying the sights there. They had a lot of kind of interesting water features and stuff. They had a lot of other pets too, especially reptiles. They had a lot of turtles. I'd say the thing I was most interested in besides fish there were all these turtles. Uh, it's just now illegal to keep turtles in Tennessee, where it hasn't been before. So I was kind of maybe looking around to see what maybe I'd be interested in keeping. Now, besides reptiles and stuff, they had a lot of fuzzy creatures that, of course, the little kids like rabbits and stuff. But they had a ton of birds. I mean, they had probably as big a bird selection as they had maybe a freshwater fish. Now, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, and I don't know much about birds at all or what it takes to keep them. I don't even know what these birds are. Are they chickens? I have no idea. But that was kind of neat too. What I really liked about this place, like if I had to pick my number one thing that I enjoyed or that I would be excited to shop there for, is that they had a really wide selection of tanks, and they weren't all just rectangles. They had a lot of interesting shaped tanks and kind of different things. They had this big, huge one in the back that was used. They had a lot of used tanks there too that looked like they're in good shape, but look how enormous this thing is. Look at the thickness of the acrylic there. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, they had a really wide selection of aquariums, a lot more than I typically see in a lot of these shops, even the older shops like this one. The other thing that they had that I really enjoy is lots and lots of options for decor. They had tons of stuff to stick inside of your aquarium. If you're into aquascaping, it can be really difficult to find a good source of really natural looking things like the different types of wood and different types of rocks and stuff like that. This place had a lot of different things. I mean, um, I've seen better stocked places, but most places I see don't have quite the selection that this place has. It's obvious that they've been around a long time, probably many, many, many years. The store itself seemed kind of old in a lot of ways, very lived in, and places like that do tend to have some like really yeah, cool decor like this that can sit around for a little while, but also potentially get sold. Look how huge that is. That is a big piece of wood. I have no idea what kind it is. They had a lot of typical things you would see in an aquarium store or maybe a pet store. A lot of different supplies. This tank I'm looking at here, I think it's an Aqueon tank. Kind of caught my eye. Kind of some interesting angles, kind of interesting shape. But we were in no shape to bring anything back, so I had to let it go.
Crab made her giggle. I guess it has.
It's crab sickness. It's driving her insane. We've done 4th of July at Siesta Key many times, or a few times anyway, and it's always been really fun. You tend to see a lot more fireworks and kind of interact with people a lot more than you would if you're just in your neighborhood. In East Tennessee, there's always people shooting off fireworks around our little suburban areas and stuff. But here at the beach, you can really see everything, including the big displays down at the other side of the beach, as well as everybody's personal ones. Something that was kind of different that I haven't seen in real life before were these paper lanterns. And they must have launched 30 or 40 of these while we were standing there. It's really unique, and I thought I thought it was especially picturesque. I really liked this image a lot. The As I eavesdropped after I shot this, I sort of listened in, and it seems like they were doing this to remember some relatives, as sort of a remembrance thing, and I thought that was it was a nice sentiment. Well, we spent most of the night just enjoying the fireworks, enjoying the light show. We'll definitely come back to Siesta Key for some more 4th of July. It's one of my favorite places to be on the 4th of July. The next day, we decided to head into downtown Sarasota. And if you might remember last year, I did a video at the Moat Aquarium. We didn't really feel like going through the moat again, although it was pretty fun. So we decided to do a sea life tour. Now, this is a service offered by the Moat Aquarium. This was the end of the week. We're all pretty tired. and looking forward to sitting in the shade and just taking a nice little boat ride and kind of learning about sea life. And it was a fun boat ride. We had a good time kind of traveling around inside the Intercoastal Waterway. It was a great view of the city from there. We saw a lot of really beautiful and expensive houses. It looks like if you're very wealthy, it would be a really neat place to live. It was actually really, really gorgeous and kind of fun, just even looking at the houses and stuff along the sides. We got to see some dolphin, which I thought was really neat. Little families of dolphins running around, little pods maybe. They also, at some point, they collect some sea creatures there by the docks, and they do this unique thing where they kind of tell you all about them, and the ones that they can pass around, they pass around, let people touch it and kind of experience it. Then they dump them all back in the water. Pretty neat. We also traveled to this island. I call it the Island of Lizards.
Okay, folks, this is an uninhabited semi-tropical island. It's part of the Sarasota Park system, and you're welcome to come here anytime you want, from sunrise to sunset.
I think mainly what I did on this island was try to record lizards as much as possible, like these two having a little dominance display. There's always a couple of dudes have to start a fight. It was cool seeing a lot of interesting habitats never really thought of before, like all these birds perched up on these little islands. These little islands just full of birds. I recently got a new drone. I got the Mavic 2. It's the one with the Hasselblad camera. And I decided to put it through its paces since I was in such a beautiful place. Mainly what I practiced with the drone on this trip were the motion time lapses. They call them hyperlapses and stuff. I did do some video, some 4K video, which I might post on the Pecktec Air channel. It's a channel I have just to post, drone footage. I had a lot of fun kind of getting up above the kites and doing sort of a kite's eye view down, back down to the beach. Had fun chasing some parasailers around and stuff like that. That was all good. But what I practiced the most with my droning was these time lapses, these motion time lapses. A lot of these shots take 10 or 15 minutes to shoot, and the drone just slowly moves and shoots one shot at a time. Now, eventually it was time to head back to Tennessee, and we encountered some traffic and some rain, but overall the drive wasn't bad. And something unusual that I was happy to see when I got back is that this tank that I've been working on, that you might remember from my last video, looked even better than when I left. That's kind of unusual for a vacation. Usually something's dead when I come home. But no, the tank's looking great. It's continuing to improve, and I'm relieved, quite frankly. I decided to add some fish to the Flex, also some shrimp. I've added a giant auto, a bunch of cherry shrimp, which you'll hear where they came from in just a minute, and a couple of Endler's live bears. It's a pretty light load for a 32-gallon tank, but it is still young, and I want to prevent as much algae as possible, but also start getting that cycle really going. Plus, early on, there's a lot of diatoms, which I know that auto will enjoy munching on. So the other thing I did is I decided I wanted more color in this aquarium, so I've added some sort of plants with a red hue. I took most of these from the Into the Woods tank. They're just trimmings from the Into the Woods tank. The other thing I did was add just a couple of pieces of frog bit just to kind of help absorb some of the excess nutrients that come up in those early years. But overall, the tank is looking great. Here's a shot of the 55 before I ripped it apart. At this point, I'd only pulled out a couple of pieces of wood to aquascape the other aquarium, and all the fish were still in there, and all the plants, for the most part, were still in there. There's Kerrigan. Kerrigan was my assistant for this whole thing, and was helping me out with some water tests before I moved any fish over. She and I tag teamed catching fish. What we did with this is we caught as many fish as we could before they kind of caught on to what we were doing. And then after they started hiding and stuff, we just went went and started pulling plants. That just seemed like the best way to go. I knew as soon as I started pulling plants, like the optimal way to catch these guys is to pull all the plants and all the decor out. But because I'd be uprooting a lot of dirt and making a big mess in there, I was really worried. I thought it might be best to get as many out as I could. And before I started just kind of pulling stuff out. There was a lot of stuff to pull out of there. Look at that little hidden gem. That's a nice adult Nubius I can put. Is it wet?
Yes, it is.
It's wet too. We'll just put that in the keeper bucket here. Boop. That's the keeper bucket sound. Boop, boop. Of course, when we got done, it was a big mud box. There were still some fish in there that I couldn't get to. I ended up getting the rest of the fish over the next couple of days. The only thing I left in there were shrimp. I took all the plants I didn't use for the flex, they all went in the 210. I decided that it's time to kind of go for a little overplanting in the 210. I want to really jungle it out so I don't have as many algae issues. Of course, I made quite the mess in there digging around, but after a little while, it cleared up. And it's looking a lot better than before. I've already seen a reduction in algae. I've already seen water seems clear somehow. I don't know why. I did add probably another third of the tank full of plants. I took these corners that were empty on the left and the right especially, and I filled in some spaces in the middle and different places like that. Now it just needs to grow. And once it really gets growing and doing well, it should be really jungly in there, and my little blue ink cars can pull out as many plants as they want without really injuring everything. The other thing I added in here were some Siamese algae eaters. These two guys were in two different tanks, much smaller tanks. One was in the 27-gallon cube and the other was in the 55. And I've thrown them in there and they've become pretty good buddies. As for the other fish and shrimp, a lot of the shrimp especially ended up in the 27-gallon and also the pond. And most of the fish, all those small fish and things, a lot of them ended up in the 57-gallon cube. I'm hoping the rainbows that are in this cube will be big enough I can add to the 210 with their parents pretty soon. I want them to get a little bit bigger before I move them over, but that tank is now busting with fish. The face tank is where a lot of the shrimp went that I caught, and it's undergone a major redo. I actually filmed a bunch of it, and I might do a video on it. I haven't decided, but yeah, I've changed this tank around quite a bit. Okay, so here's the 55 as it is today. It's been a couple of weeks since I actually kind of broke it down and took all the stuff out. You guys saw that when it happened. I've got a few plants that I couldn't see at the time because it was so cloudy when I first did this. A couple of these I want to pull out, maybe use in some other tanks. I'll put them somewhere. And right now what I'm doing is I'm rounding up the last of the cherry shrimp. This is about the 7th or 8th time I've come back in there and looking for survivors. Looking for those last few residents of this tank. I even found one teeny tiny one. You can just barely see it. It's like right here. But there's one like teeny tiny one. Now I'm looking in here for any others that I see. It's really hard to see them. There's one. It's really hard to see them on this dirt substrate that's kind of come up. The next thing to do with this, of course, is going to be to drain it. Get as much of this dirt out of there as I can just to make it not weigh so much. And then Kerrigan and I are going to have to carry it out to the basement, or the garage, that is. I wish I had a basement. We'll be carrying it outside, and I get to rearrange a few things. Okay, folks, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'll be back soon with more videos. We've got a lot going on. Not sure exactly what I'm going to talk about next, but if you've got a suggestion or there's something you want to know, be sure to let me know in the comments down below. And that's all I've got for you today. Until next time, follow your bliss and keep a clean tank. That's right. I'm saying it again. I believe it again. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. We had a great time in Sarasota. We had a great time in Sarasota. Bye-bye. I needed a vacation. Goodness. You're doing it. You're doing good.
Oh, it really goes to your eyeball.
No.